All right, what up, fam? I'm over here on a long weekend walk, feeling good on the A side of this walk. Something that has been in my head when it comes to the way that we learn, right? When I think about the way that we learn and the ways that we teach, or the different approaches to teaching, you could summarize under the word pedagogy. Pedagogy is essentially different philosophical, ideological approaches to a certain style of teaching, right? What's your pedagogy? Something a lot of faculty at community colleges and four-year universities throw around, even in K through 12. So, all right, how do we learn? How do we teach? What's some dynamics within that? Or actually, what is something that I think that we miss, right? I am a different learner. Statistically, I represent a low percentage of kids who were in K through 12 in the US. I was born in 82, right? So you think about, like in my lifetime, Black people have been 11 to approximately 14% of the population. So I was not reflective of the majority of the population in school. So already there's going to be some differences there. In addition to that, I'm ADHD and dyslexic. I've been that my whole life, but I didn't get diagnosed with that until my late 30s. I didn't have a personal understanding of that until my 30s, at least with ADHD. Dyslexia came a little later, right? So what I had to do in learning environments to K through 12 and in college was adapt. This wasn't my preferred method of learning. I didn't really understand what was going on. I knew that people were telling me I wasn't getting the concepts in the way that they wanted. But the way that they wanted was punctual deadlines, right? It wasn't really showing that you knew the topic. It was showing that you could respond by a certain point in time with a scripted response that anyone could put together, even if you didn't understand the topic. So I was learning to learn, right? This is what a lot of neurodiversity studies talk about with young neurodivergent learners. We're not really in it for the grades or the other stuff. We're in it because we have to learn to learn. We want to learn, right? So let me fast forward. What I notice is people go through these check boxes. We get real obsessed with what major looks the best on paper, right? What experience looks the best on paper? Does our GPA look good? Is it high enough on paper, right? We don't think enough about the applied meaning of the topics we've studied or our conceptual understanding. And because most of us never really have a point in time in our life where we do some metacognition, where we think about our thinking, we think about the ways that we learn, the reasons why we use certain approaches to our thinking, how to improve that thinking, what are the gaps and the holes in it, that we don't really understand it. We don't understand these concepts well. We don't understand it. We don't understand. We don't grasp the fact that we don't understand the concepts well enough. And so what do we want? Even as adults, we're working as professionals, we want lists. We want itemized lists that tell us what are the best practices we can do. But what happens when you just want a list of tips and best practices is you're not conceptually ready to apply those tips and best practices. Those tips and best practices are formulated with the understanding that you have a conceptual awareness about your situation, your unique identity within that situation, and some of the confounding variables within that situation, right? I notice this when I do workshops in K through 12. I notice this when I teach when I teach classes at the university level, typically at the master's level. And I also notice it when I work with adults in workshops in their workplace, right? So let me break down this conceptual piece. My job as a clinical mental health counselor, there's a bunch of other hats that I wear and roles I perform, but my job is not to give you advice in that clinical counseling scenario. In that scenario, my job is to listen to what you're saying and to give it back to you in a way that you can hear it and process it and untangle that. And together we can work through that meaning and how to apply that to your life. So what that is helping someone gain a conceptual understanding of themselves, to reframe the narrative, to have a more nuanced appreciation for the variables in their life, right? That's conceptualization. If we have to take time to reconceptualize our own understanding of ourselves, why do we think that we can grasp a new topic just by using lists of tips and best practices? We can't. This is why we must humble ourselves in the learning process, because we need to gain a better conceptual understanding of these topics. This is also why we need to humble ourselves in the teaching process, because people are coming from a multitude of different learning styles. I'm not talking about audible learner, physical learner, kinetic learner, or visual learner. We are all of those things. Everyone is all of those things. You might lean to one of those dimensions a little more than another one, but the best learning environments incorporate all three of those elements of learning. What I'm talking about of learning styles is neurodivergent thinker, dyslexic thinker, right? Systemic, detailed thinker, big picture thinker, right? There's different ways that we approach solutions to problems. So all I want y'all to do with this is understand that we don't know everything. Nobody does, whether student or teacher. And student, even as adult, sometimes those bad habits, those assumptions can be even stronger. Because we're adults, we have been through this. We know. You don't got to tell us that. We know, right? Humility. Humility is the key to learning, because you have to understand, you have to challenge yourself. Do I conceptually understand this topic? How do I know that I conceptually understand it? When I hear certain arguments I agree with or don't agree with, can I explain why? Can I teach it to someone else? Then probably you conceptually understand it. All right, y'all. We're going to keep improving our walking. We're going to keep improving our thinking. We can improve our walking too. All right, let's keep with it, y'all. Keep walking.